One of the shots that I always used to struggle with was the high volley, and it was extremely frustrating because when you get a high volley, you're in charge of the point. All you need to do is put it away and you win the point. Only that's not what I used to do. Far too often I would take my eye off the ball, hit a poor quality volley, often miss-hit it, lose the point, and it would drive me mad. If you've experienced this yourself, then you'll know what I'm talking about. It is extremely frustrating. So that's why moving forwards, now that I'm playing left-handed, one of the things that I want to do is develop a good quality high volley on both sides. Now, I'm playing left-handed because I separated my collarbone in a mountain bike crash. I've had to stop playing right-handed, so I'm trying to get as good as I can with my left, hopefully get back to being a 5.0 level, and I need to do everything that I can to give myself the best chance of achieving that. And namely, developing a high volley, because I'm not getting any younger. I need to be able to finish the points off more quickly. I can't afford to be grinding out at the back of the court at my age. But also in doubles, it is such an important shot. Your opponent needs to know that if they hit a weak return or if they hit a weak ground stroke, that you're going to be there, you're going to put the ball away, because it places them under so much pressure. So what I decided to do to try and fix my main problem that I used to have, which was dropping my head or taking my eye off the ball, I decided to do a 1,000 volley challenge where I was going to hit 1,000 volleys in a single session. So 10 sets of 100 volleys done continuously. Not normally the way that I practice on a ball machine, but I really wanted just to practice and train and focus on that head stability component. So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to be showing you a little bit of the practice, basically talking through how many times I was able to keep my head still through contact, talking about how my volleys have changed since I did the challenge, and then some of the things that I need to address off the court to be able to continue to improve and develop my high volleys. So this is the basic setup that I was using for my challenge. The position of the ball machine varied because I worked on a number of different feeds, but I had 4 cones set up. 1 deep in the deuce court, 1 short in the deuce court, 1 deep in the ad court, and 1 short in the ad court. And then throughout the 100 balls, instead of aiming 100 to the same spot, I was varying and working on different patterns. For round 1, I started with a nice, simple, high forehand volley. Ball machines on the service box, so less distance to travel, much easier to read, and I was generally punching them, most of them deep. But the key thing about this is I'm not too concerned with where the ball goes. Until I watched these videos back, I didn't actually know where the ball was going. All I care about is how many times out of 100 am I able to watch the ball through to contact and keep my head still through contact and keep it there for a moment or two after I've played the volley, basically until the ball bounced. I wouldn't necessarily hold my head still for this long in match play, but I'm really trying to encourage myself to develop the habit. And in round 1, out of 100 volleys, there were 0 fails, so there was none that I didn't watch the ball through to contact. There were 5 balls where I didn't line my head up perfectly, and there were 2 balls where I pulled my head away a little bit too quickly afterwards. So overall, a reasonable first round. For round number 2, I worked on a very simple high backhand volley. Again, I was varying up where I was hitting my shots to. All I was focusing on was the head stability. And for round 2, I had 0 fails, so I watched the ball through to contact on all of them. There were 2 volleys where I pulled my head away just a little bit too quickly afterwards, but I think the big take home from the backhand volleys was that I wasn't lining my head up optimally when the ball was a little bit higher. So when the ball was above my head height, I didn't tend to track it properly with my head. I was following it with my eyes, so I need to work on lifting my chin a little bit more and keeping the alignment more even. For round 3, I worked on alternating between this simple high forehand and high backhand volley. There were 0 fails, so I watched the ball through to contact on all of them. There wasn't any times where I pulled my head away a little bit too quickly, so that was good. But again, I've got the same thing that I had previously, where on the backhand volleys, I wasn't lifting my head enough when the ball was a little bit higher. For round number 4, I increased the level of difficulty, and this is really important because in order to improve, your practice needs to be done at the right level of difficulty. if it's really easy and you just do loads of repetitions of easy stuff, you improve initially, but then you stop improving. What I need to do is challenge my ability to keep my visual and head stability on progressively more difficult shots. So I've made it slightly more difficult in this round. I've moved the ball machine back a little bit, but the main level of difficulty is coming from varying the feed, so I don't know whether it's going to my forehand or backhand, and increasing the speed of my feed, so I've got less time to react. Because of the increased difficulty this time around, there was a couple of fails where I didn't watch the ball properly through to contact, and there were also 3 or 4 other shots where I didn't quite get my head lined up. But all of these issues were on the same type of ball. It was that one right there where the ball was kind of hit towards my head and I had tried to move out of the way, and as I was moving to my right hand side I didn't effectively turn my head to the left. So all of the issues were on that particular shot. So I'm going to be talking about some exercises towards the end of the video that I'm going to be working on to try and fix that problem and the problem with not looking up as much on my high backhand volleys. On round number 5 I increased the difficulty level again, so now I've moved the ball back to the baseline. I've also changed the level of spin, so this one has got a lot of slice, because traditionally some of the balls that I would struggle with was when I was in a good position, my opponent was slicing the ball, it was floating, and then I would miss it. So that's the one that I was working on here. And in terms of how the round went, it went really well. There was a couple where I pulled my head away a little bit soon, but there was no fails, and overall it was a much better quality round in terms of concentration. On round 6 I increased the height of the ball, and again this is another one where traditionally I would really struggle with. So this one the ball's got a little bit more height to it, and I was also taking a bit more of a cut. My goal is really to train my ability to keep my eyes locked on that target, keep my head still. I'm not trying to be timid with these shots. I don't just want one option, so while I'm working on this head stability, I'm really playing around with the timing and getting a feel for the ball, and I was trying to be very aggressive with these volleys, and especially in light of that, I was really happy because this was my best round. There wasn't anywhere I really pulled my head away or anything like that. There was 0 fails, so overall a really good round. On round 7 I added a little bit more height, and I also moved back a bit, and then very consciously I worked on swatting the ball a little bit more, so kind of an extension of what I was just talking about a moment ago. I don't always want to be kind of practicing perfect technique. Some of these I'm just trying to let go a little bit over my head. I'm trying to use a little bit more wrist and kind of really swat at the ball, but just maintaining that visual and head stability. And in that respect I did a reasonable job. There was 4 where I pulled my head away a little bit. Obviously you can see here I've missed a couple of shots, but that's okay. What I'm focusing on is the quality of my practice. You can't guarantee outcomes. All you can do is focus on the process and the things that you can control, and increase the likelihood of getting a better outcome. In round number 8 I increased the speed a little bit, moved back a little bit closer to the net, and increased the amount of topspin. And in round 8 again it was another reasonably clear round. There was a couple where I pulled my head away a little bit soon, but other than that everything was pretty good. In round 9 I've moved closer to the net again, and I've significantly increased the speed of the feed as well as added more topspin, and because of that I made a few more mistakes. There was about 5 balls where I didn't get my head properly lined up because I just wasn't fast enough in terms of following and tracking the ball with my head. For the final round I made it more difficult again. I increased the speed, increased the amount of topspin, so it was a difficult ball to deal with. I'm also going to make an excuse because it took a lot longer than I was expecting to get through this, so by now it was 9:30 at night. I was getting very hungry, and all of those things I think contributed to me making a few more errors. So there was 4 that I would class as fails where I just didn't watch the ball effectively, and another 6 or 7 where I didn't get my head lined up properly. But they were all on the backhand side, interestingly. So definitely an area that I need to work on, and I'm going to have to come up with some specific exercises to try and address underlying things that might be limiting me. Okay, so that's how my practice session went, and overall I'm pretty happy with it. There was 6 where I just didn't do a good job watching the ball through to contact, and there was 31 more where I didn't do it optimally. So either I didn't line my head up at contact or I pulled my head away a little bit soon. But overall, I was pretty happy with my ability to maintain focus for that many repetitions. Now, in addition to the on-court work, I've had to do a lot of work in the past off-court training my vestibular system, which is the system that lives in the inner ear. Now, this system is really important for keeping your eyes fixed on targets as you move your head. It's really important for making postural adjustments as you move your head. It's really important for rotation and spinal and postural control in general. So it's a really big deal in tennis, and I had a lot of problems with it because I'd had a number of concussions. And that was one of the things that held me back and caused me problems with the high volleys in the past. So I've done a lot of work to try and improve how this system has functioned, and it's definitely helped, and it's something that I would recommend other players highly do as well. Now, as we saw then, the mistakes that I'm still making are on the even higher ones. So some of those ones on the backhand side, I wasn't quite lining my head up, and on the forehand, as I was trying to move out the way, I wasn't quite lining my head up. So there's obviously a residual issue going on there. I'm going to continue to work on it on court, but then I'm also going to create some very specific targeted drills to try and improve how my system functions off court. Now, if you'd like to learn more about training your vision and training your vestibular system to improve tennis performance, I've created a free masterclass that's going to teach you all about it. I'll place a link up there, and I'll place a link down in the description so that you can check this class out and learn more about how to use brain-based training. And at the end of the class, it's also going to teach you a little bit about my program and how I work with players using this type of training. Now, unfortunately, I've only had a chance to play once since I did this challenge. The weather just hasn't cooperated, but the opportunity I did get, my high volleys were better than they'd been previously by a long way. There was only 3 opportunities. They were all on my backhand, but I put them all away. And that's definitely good for me, because in the olden days, I wouldn't have done that with my right hand. So now to start to be able to do that with my left hand, that's a very good sign. And it's also a good sign that if I continue to do this, which I'm definitely going to do again, maybe not 1,000 reps because it's hard to get that much court time, but definitely doing some high rep work, trying to improve that head stability, combined with off-court training of my vestibular system, hopefully it's going to allow me to develop a real high quality high volley that I can use to punish opponents in matches. Okay, hopefully you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have, it'd be great if you could give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's always much appreciated when you can do that as well. If you've got any comments about what I've talked about here, I would love you to leave them down below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.